Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Wednesday's edition of the dceu Daily. Remember, you can follow me at Twitter, at Movies TV Mad, to continue the conversation. Now, we know that Sean O'Connell came to the Release the Snyder Cut movement, let's just say in the middle of the run of our movement, and either he was inspired by us and what we were doing, or he saw a business opportunity. Whatever the reasons, Sean really helped us and helped our movement. We know that Sean wasn't a Snyder fan to begin with, but personally, unlike some of my fellow Snyderverse fans, don't think this is a big issue. What I would say to Sean, if he ever sees this video, is that, Sean, I understand that this is a business move. I want you to be as successful as possible. It speaks to the film industry. I think this is an important movement, and I thank you for helping us for whatever the reasons. But what I would implore you to do is at least give a little portion of what you make from this book to suicide prevention. Something that doesn't affect your profit margin, of course, but it would be a good thing. And if you decide to do this, just put it up on social media. I think some of the hate for you would probably go away because of that. Anyway, Sean O'Connell is talking about the Release the Snyder Cut book. The release is imminent. I think he's releasing it in March, is he, or something like that. Anyway, he released a quote from his interview with Zack Snyder, and he's done an article over on Cinema Blend about it. The real story behind why Zack Snyder left Justice League in 2017. Now, disclaimer, I think we all know that Zack Snyder was either driven out or fired from his Justice League movie and from being the lead of the DC Extended Universe. So we already know that. So it's old news. But it's interesting to get Zack's perspective. So let's see what Sean's got to say first. Why is there a Snyder Cut of Justice League? Didn't that movie come out in 2017? Showcasing Batman, Ben Affleck, Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, and the members of DC Comics core team. If you are casual fans of comic book movies, you might be wondering this exact thing as you hear buzz around the version of Justice League that's coming to HBO Max in March. Is it the same movie, just longer? What movies in the DC Extended Universe does it connect to? If any, why did Zack Snyder leave Justice League in the first place, leading to the existence of a Snyder Cut of the movie? The story of the Release the Snyder Cut movement is unlike anything I have ever seen in my 20 plus years as a film journalist. It's rare that you see a filmmaker replaced on a blockbuster in the middle of post-production. Actually, Sean, I'm going to correct you there. Being involved in the entertainment industry, I can tell you, it's not a groundbreaking event. It's happened lots of times. It happened with Solo, A Star Wars Story, where the two Lego movie guys were writing and directing it. As far as Kathleen Kennedy was concerned, what they come up with was an absolute mess. So they brought in Ron Howard, or should I say George Lucas, persuaded Ron Howard to redo the movie. Now, what's interesting about Solo, A Star Wars Story is that it was a flop, but the film is actually a solid movie. It's a film nobody asked for, of course, but when you watch that movie, it's somewhat entertaining, and it's okay. It isn't a mess, unlike Justice League anyway, particularly as a highly of an anticipated film as Warner Brothers. Justice League was, and continues to be. On March 1st, a book that I wrote called The Release the Snyder Cut will drop in stores and online from Applause Books. A little bit of marketing for yourself there, Sean? Why not? Here we go. Pre-order a copy of the book right here. The book explains in detail what happened to Zack Snyder behind the scenes on Justice League back in 2017, while also following the 3-year effort spent by Snyder's most dedicated fans to get Warner Brothers to finally release his original cut of the doomed Justice League movie. What you saw in theatres in 2017 was not the version Snyder intended to show. That cut is coming to HBO Max soon, and the book reveals how that happened. Now, even though, obviously, Sean has seen an opportunity here, and to be honest with you, this is the problem with Access Media right now. I'm surprised nobody else took this opportunity. It's very clever from Sean to do this. But this is not just a good thing for Sean. And those of you who keep on attacking Sean, this is why you're wrong. It's also why you're wrong to tell people, advise people to boycott HBO Max. and unsubscribed from the platform merely because they decided to release another movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, in the same month. 2 days in the space of that movie or whatever the dates are. You are wrong. At the end of the day, they have every right to release another movie. It does not hurt Zack Snyder's Justice League. And what you're doing is putting out needless poison. And by the way, you are not going to win. Anyway, let me carry on with what I was about to say. In other words, right, this is not just good for Sean. This is good for the cut. This is good for Zack Snyder's Justice League. A book's coming out. People are going to be interested in reading it. Sean's going to make money, but also this promotes the actual movie. So this is why I'm saying to you, attacking him is a bit dumb. But there is a lot of dumbness in our movement, I'm afraid. But now that we are getting closer to the release date of the book, Release the Snyder Cut, I wanted to share a few of the things that I learned while piecing this unprecedented story together. For one, I want to help casual fans understand the importance of the Justice League coming to HBO Max. But I also want to pull back the curtain that hangs over facts that the Release the Snyder Cut movement knows, but might not fully understand. Now, this is quite clever of him to try and bring in casual fans to buy his book. It's a great business initiative, but again, this is a good initiative for the actual movie. The reason that Zack Snyder gave for leaving Justice League had to do with a tragedy in the Snyder family. Zack's daughter, Autumn, died by suicide, and the director felt like he had to walk away from the production to be at home with his family. No one could ever fault him for that decision. No one could fault anyone for walking away after their own daughter, their baby, took their own lives. Absolutely not. And if that was the genuine reason, obviously, we'd all have to respect that, and we have to be careful how we talk about it. No, that's not true. Oh, it's because they drove him out. I think it's a conglomeration of both factors. But obviously, when your daughter takes her own life, you're going to be a mess. Life's not worth living for you. You have to keep going. And you have to be with your other children. I mean, imagine how his other children felt as well. So it was a horrible time for the Snyders. And I love films. I love DC. It's my whole life. But nothing's more important than actual people and the real world. And we must always remember that. And we always must remember how we conduct ourselves considering people's feelings. Now, before I read this on and read you Zack's quote, we need to talk about Collider.com's journalist, Steve Weintraub. Now, he read there was a header for an article saying the truth why Zack Snyder left Justice League, and he put a laughing emoji. This was very disrespectful, disrespecting what Zack's been through, and we as a fandom went after him. Now, unlike some of the dumber elements of our movement, I've decided to be very balanced and tell Steve in no uncertain terms what he did is wrong, unfeeling, and toxic. And I said to him, you call us as a movement toxic, but look what you've done. Now, Steve kept on going, trying to stick up for himself, including saying he doesn't like Snyder Bros. By the way, the Snyder sisters don't like you either, mate. But as usual, alt lefts try and make it all about men. Never mind, you carry on, Steve. Now, Steve has deleted this Twitter comment. It's disgusting. It sums up Access Media and their attitude to DC. This is not just about Zack, by the way. They hate us. They hate Warner Brothers. They hate Warner Media because they're on Team Disney. And this is the problem. We've become like these dystopian people, all having a side to chant for and hating the other side. But Access Media is a strong part of this. Now, the COVID pandemic may have hurt so many people, and I'm sorry about it, but it's also hurting and getting rid of another virus, which is Access Entertainment Media. They are toxic. They are slowly but surely being made redundant because of the pandemic, and the real people in control of the narrative now are us, the fans, and the actual studios. We do not need Access Media. Not anymore. Not with social media. We do not need critics. These people are scum. Not all critics. As I said before, some of them are my friends. Some of them care about films and are passionate. A bit like Alex Billington. a critic I'm sure you haven't heard of, a really nice guy who supports all movie making, especially independent movies. So it's important to say that. But these people's positions are becoming redundant, and I'm really happy. During an exclusive interview with Zack Snyder for the release of the Snyder Cut book that took place in June 2020. However, I asked the director if there was ever a scenario where the studio offered to delay the original film's November the 17th, 2017 release date, giving Snyder proper time to grieve with his family, but also having the ability to return to post-production and finish his work. In answering, Snyder dug deeper into the real reason that he left Justice League in 2017, clarifying. So this is Zack's full quote. I just was kind of done with it. I was in this place of knowing my family needs me more than this bullshit, and I just need to honour them and do the best I can to heal that world. I had no energy to fight the studio and fight for the movie, literally zero energy for that. I really think that's the main thing. I think there's a different world where I stayed and kind of tried, and I'm sure I could have, because every movie is a fight, right? Yes, that's true, Zack. I was used to that, but I just did not have the energy. There was no fight in me. I had been beaten by what was going on in my life, and I just didn't want to... Sorry, this is emotional, isn't it? This is powerful. Wow, just going to take a minute here. The man said he's beaten because he lost his baby. Think about that. If you're a hater, it doesn't matter if you hate the man's films. As a human being, as a person, if you're a father or a mother, think about this. Think about what the man went through. This is harrowing. And the bullying and the toxicity just because you don't like his film is wrong on so many levels. I'm not one of the Snyder fandom who's going to attack you if you don't like the man's films, if you don't like our movement, if you don't like DC, if you don't like Warner Media, I don't care. But on a level as a human being, he's putting himself out here in this quote, talking about he had no fight in him. As far as he was concerned, the movie industry was bullshit, and all he cared about was healing his family. And quite right too. I had been beaten by what was going on in my life, and I just didn't want to. I didn't care to. That was kind of where I was. So it's a very emotional quote, and I can imagine some of you listening to that quote find that kind of harrowing. And although I apologise for how you're feeling, it's nothing to what Zack must have been feeling, and Deb and the children. Let's not forget their children here. You know, Zack and Deb are very compassionate, loving people. I don't know how many children they've got actually, but I do know. I think must have been. I think Autumn was adopted. Is that right? I'm not sure, but I do think they adopt children as well. So you know, these are very loving, caring people taking children from a place where they're not being looked after, where they bring love to them. And so this is more than a movie-making couple. But we know them through the movies, but we've adopted them into our hearts. And I just want to say to Zack and Deb, I wouldn't have been able, if I lost one of my nephews and nieces, I would be devastated. I would be a mess, especially if I found out that they were self-harming or attempted to take their lives. You know, so that's really emotional. So I just wanted to take a minute just to focus on that. Even as someone who has tracked every step of the Snyder Cut journey, it caught me off guard to hear Zack Snyder admit that he was fighting with the studio and was fighting over his version of Justice League. Sean, if you're as experienced as you say you should, you shouldn't actually say you are. You shouldn't actually be shocked that a director's been fighting for his film. This happens all the time. I've explained to you people how it works. These entities put hundreds of millions, right, into these films. They have a right to want it their way, but they know they're not going to get it completely their way. There's a balance to it. And if Zack stayed and fought for it, it would have been a 50-50 movie. Mostly what these movies are. Even Nolan didn't completely get his own way with the Dark Knight trilogy. When you're working in the studio system, you do have to bend the knee a little bit, or you have to win the lottery and start your own studio. It's one of those things, I'm afraid. This is the reality of the industry. So even though them driving Zack out or whatever what the situation was, they didn't wait for him. They didn't. Listen, Sugihara forced Whedon to do the reshoots and rewrites in time for the original release date of November the 17th. So he wasn't interested in waiting for anyone. They all wanted their bonuses. They thought whatever they put out with the name Justice League would bring back over $1 billion. And they was wrong, because they underestimated one element. The DC fans, the consumer, isn't just going to swallow any old shit. Whether you love the MCU or not, it's not just any old shit. They have developed characters. They've got a string of movies. They've got story arcs. That's why it works, because they put in the work. They put in the effort. Now, whether you like the way Feige does comic book movies and TV shows or not, you have to respect the fact that he put in the hard graft. Warner Brothers, the old regime of Warner Brothers, didn't want to do that. This regime, led by Walter Hamada, whatever you think of him, does want to do that. Right. And by the way, I'm excited about the multiverse strategy, but you can't just do a Flashpoint story and think it's going to fix everything. You have to create a new arc. You have to develop these characters properly. People actually have to care. So you have to put the graft in for people to care. Anyway, when Autumn died, and that for a moment Snyder envisioned a world where he did continue to fight, because, as he says, these creative arguments between executives and storytellers happen on every film. Exactly. But the incessant fight over Justice League, and likely over Snyder's total vision for the DCEU, had totally drained Snyder of his ability to keep scrapping. He said he had zero energy for it. They wore him down. All he could do was walk away. They drove him off the picture. We know that. We knew that. You knew that before I read you that quote, before Sean posted that quote, right? The problem, the different situation with Snyder and the DC Extended Universe is this. They brought in Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan brought him in. They didn't want to work with Zack Snyder. They wanted to work with Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker leading this franchise. And he didn't want to do that. And he brought someone else in that they never chose. So it's a bit like when you have a partner and the partner has to put up with your mother. And your mother's a bit of a bitch and your mother doesn't approve of her. It's the same analogy here. And this was the problem. Zack Snyder was literally the mother-in-law that Warner Brothers, the old regime, never wanted. They didn't like his style of filmmaking. They didn't like his alternate take. This was the problem. All they wanted was money, 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 and people to say how great they are for bringing DC in such a great way. And they didn't get that. It split the consumer. It split access entertainment media. And it was an almighty mess that had to be dealt with. They didn't deal with it properly. And unfortunately, it came at a time when Zack had a massive loss in his life. So it was very uncomfortable. But the problem is, this doesn't show the old regime of WB in a good light. They had zero compassion for the man's loss, just like Steve Weintraub has. So we go on. What's special about Zack Snyder and the release of the Snyder Cut movement is that he walked away from Justice League but didn't allow himself to drift too far. His fan base took up the cause and dedicated their efforts to restore the Snyder's vision. And he chimed in whenever he could to fuel their collective fire and keep the movement focused on the ultimate prize, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and they finally prevailed. Now, yes, we got involved. We fought. Without us, it wouldn't have happened. But Zack fueled us totally. Without Zack, none of this would ever have happened. When HBO Max announced on May 20th, 2020 that on May 20, 2020, that the Snyder Cut was coming. God, what's wrong with me? Let's start again. Let's do this, right. Zack Snyder's Justice League, and they finally prevailed when HBO Max announced on May 20th, 2020 that the Snyder Cut was coming, and now it's almost here. You know what else is almost here? My book. Oh, God. He's doing a right old plug here. Shall I read it for him? Released the Snyder Cut, which is kind of insane to realise this is my first book. And while it's aimed at people who love Zack Snyder and work that he was doing in the DC universe, the book also digs deep into the power of fandom, the strength that pop culture fans can find in unity, my ass, and the sheer lengths that this particular fan base did to protect artistic integrity. Raise funds for suicide prevention. So he spelt it wrong. Raise funds for suicide prevention and ensure that Zack Snyder got to finally release the true cut of Justice League. So basically, that's a big blag for him, for you to buy his book. Now, I may buy his book if look, I think I'm going to be able to get excerpts of the book to read out on this channel as well, which is my agenda. So if I can do that, I won't buy the book. A bit hard for me to get stuff out here in Cyprus via the internet, but we will see. I think it's available on Amazon, so I will be able to get it. So anyway, when it's out did you say the 1st of March? I will be reading excerpts of that so we can look into it. And so basically, everything else that in the article, the important thing is what Zack said, that they broke him. He was a broken man because of the loss of his daughter, and he left. But the truth of the matter is, he was fired, wasn't he? He was booted out by the old regime of WB, and he and us have been at war with them ever since. And there's still elements of those people in Warner Brothers Pictures. Now, there's an opinion from us in the movement that they're still trying to kibosh Zack Snyder's Justice League by not promoting it. I just want to say this before I sign off for today, that it is in no one's advantage for Zack Snyder's Justice League not to make any money. Because if it doesn't, the people who made that decision, and although this was an AT&T decision, the people with their names on the door who are running the studio via Warner Media and Warner Brothers Pictures will look bad. They will lose their jobs. So if you're Toby Emmerich, and let's just say he does harper, an agenda to make it fail, it will be done because he'll lose his job. He'll lose his job as head of Warner Brothers Pictures. So he's not going to do that. Let me say to you what I said to you yesterday. Zack Snyder is in total control of the marketing of Zack Snyder's Justice League, not Warner Brothers Picture. And his pictures and his plan is to start marketing, I think, from the beginning of February. So what he's going to do is he's going to announce the release date at the beginning of February, then marketing. Do you like me doing that? But yeah, so basically marketing all the way from February to the release date. That's Snyder's plan. He's in charge of the marketing, not Warner Media. So if you want to have a go at someone or actually ask them about the marketing, stop tagging Warner Brothers and Warner Media. Ask Zack on Vero, and maybe he'll answer your questions. He's very good at answering questions. But ultimately, after all of this is all futile. Going back, talking about what happened, cussing and tagging and being toxic towards Warner Media and Warner Brothers because of what happened to Zack, it's in the past. Stop going on about it. As Subjective Review said on Twitter, we are getting Zack Snyder's Justice League and nothing else matters. Celebrate that. Look forward to that. Get the popcorn in, because in March we are getting a 4-hour Justice League movie all in one go. And there's nothing more exciting than that. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.